Something I wanted to say last time I was on your show, which is that I am convinced that you saved at least one kid's life, was something that you said the last time I was on, which is that we were talking about my own experiences as a survivor of childhood sexual assault. And you told a story about how when you were a kid, you were in a library and this like sick fuck pedophile guy like was trying to get you out of the library.
Yeah.
And a librarian stepped in and basically saved you from this guy. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The reason that I think you saved at least one kid's life is this, because, and again, speaking from firsthand experience, as a male survivor, especially of childhood sexual assault, you think like, how could I have let that happen to me? Why didn't I defend myself? Why didn't I fight the guy off? You know, even though intellectually you look at a 7, 8, 9-year-old boy, you're like, you got no chance against a grown man.
Right.
But for, Joe Rogan to say like a librarian saved me from this happening to me, right? Because you're a tough guy, okay? You're perceived as a tough guy. I think rightly so.
Now.
Now.
7 or 8 or however it was at the time.
But I hope I'm articulating my point, which is that
it can happen to
guys,
anyone.
Yeah. And for a guy that's like suffering that and thinking like, why didn't, it just helps when somebody in a position like yourself, says like, hey, it could have happened to me.
Easily. It almost did. I mean, I was on my way out the door.
Right.
Yeah, it could have, if that librarian hadn't called out my name. I think about that all the time. What would have happened to me? Who I would have become, It's one of the darkest forces in the world, like this, and I don't understand why it's so prevalent. And I think, I've equated it to vampires. That it seems like one of the things that happens to some of the people that get molested is they wind up doing it to others.
Yeah.
And
that is a harsh truth. I mean, I try and do what I can to dispel the stereotype because, that was one of the things that, scared the shit out of me when I was a teenager is the idea that I was going to become a pedophile myself.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it's unfortunate. So, it's that hurt people cliche,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
But there's truth behind it.
It is with violence. It is with everything. When something happens.
Pedophilia, which let's just call it what it is, raping kids is just an incredibly destructive force in our culture and in all cultures. And I just it's the one kind of criminal I think that I just have absolutely no sympathy for. None.
Nor do I.
None.
No, most people feel the same way. I mean, when you talk about one of my daughters is very much against the death penalty, and I think for a good reason. And because we've had conversations about people that are unjustly accused, and she knows that I've had many people on my podcast that spent a long time in jail for crimes that they didn't commit, and some of them were on death row, and they could have been executed. And we were talking about it. We said in a perfect scenario, when you absolutely know that the law has got the right person and that this person has done something and then they have killed people, whether it's a serial killer or whatever it is, yeah, maybe the death penalty makes sense. But we don't have a perfect legal system.
Right.
And then the subject of child molesters came up and they were like, oh no, kill them all. Like
right.
Everybody's, it's
right.
almost like.
It's an instinctual reaction.
Yeah. Especially my wife. Mothers, they hear that and it's just like, that's the one. Like you have to kill them.
Because they never fucking stop.
No, they don't.
They never stop.
It's a weird sickness. It's just so strange that it's not a very, very rare, uncommon thing, that like exists like in a handful of places in the world occasionally.
Yeah.
But then when you hear about something like the Catholic Church, there was Pope Benedict. When he got kicked out, there was a lot of people that didn't understand what was going on, and I was looking into it, and you find out what that guy did, and one of the things that he did that's so evil is he would move people. So he would take a priest that was molesting kids and just move him to another unsuspecting place, and he went on to molest one of these guys that they caught. Went on to molest 100 deaf kids, at least 100 that they're aware of, and just go and he knew that this guy was a pedophile, and it's just the Catholic Church in particular is just like I went to Catholic school and nothing happened to me, but things did happen to people that I know that did go to Catholic school. And it's just like, is there another religion that is more connected? Like when you hear the term Catholic priest,
Right.
pedophile is right. Like
Right.
if you were playing a game like Catholic priest, pedophile, like you would say that, if you're, what is that, charades? What's that game? When like you say, tough, big, runs fast, football player, yes.
Right.
That you would say, Catholic priest, pedophile. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
like,
Right. And it was an open secret for so long too.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
I think a lot of the priests were probably drawn to the church for the access to kids. I mean, and
Yes.
Kirtanananda in New Vrindavan built himself a little pedophile heaven up there.
Yeah.
Once he had the power.
So how did you talk to anybody from there that kind of reformed that place? Like how did they, once they got rid of him?
Well, first of all, he finally went to prison for murder, murder for hire, basically, along with racketeering and like he was selling like counterfeit, football hats and shit. I mean,
Is he still in jail? Or is
no, he's dead. He's dead. But he still has like not within ISKCON, but within the larger sort of Krishna consciousness movement, he still has a following. And I went to his tomb that's in Vrindavan, India. And I had, like a translator kind of fixer with me, and I had one camera guy. And we sort of bullshitted our way in. And it was this creepy fucking place, man. It was like this, these sort of like almost Soviet bloc looking apartment. It was all half finished. Like there was his tomb, and there were flowers and incense and photos of him and stuff. And it's basically after he got out of prison eventually as an old man. And he went to India and Pakistan and like drew a following of like Pakistani and boys basically that are now men in their 20s and 30s. And they occupy this sort of compound around his tomb. And the one that we sort of bullshitted our way past was starting to get like a little suspicious of what we were doing and of our story, which is like that we were just tourists basically that had sort of wandered by this place and were interested by it. And all these dudes just started coming out of these, they looked like vacant buildings, but they clearly weren't. All these like followers or Kirtananda, and the translator's like, it's time to go now, time to go now, time to go now, time to go now. And so, we boogied out of there.
Wow.
Yeah. But he still has like followers, and frankly, even within ISKCON, he still has sort of quiet supporters.